Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. My name is Ivana Radovojevic, and I'm the Project Coordinator and Client Relations Manager with ATLAS.ti in our Europe office. So what we're going to see today is an introduction and global overview of ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. So we'll see a little bit about what the software is, how it works, and what kinds of different things that it entails. Now, I've also put up here our contact information, and I invite everyone to take a note. You can always send us an email or give us a call. And for any questions or doubts you may have regarding anything with ATLAS.ti, you can count on our support. If you don't see the phone number for your country listed here, just take a look on our website, and you can see the full list of all of our international offices. Now, aside from this, after seeing today's webinar, if you do decide to purchase ATLAS.ti, you can all count on a 10% discount coupon. Just send me an email and let me know, and I'll send that right along to you. So I'd like to begin by saying, what is ATLAS.ti? Well, what we're looking at today is a computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software. In other words, this is a software that can facilitate the analysis of any unstructured or non-numerical data. So we can use ATLAS.ti to identify the themes, patterns, or meanings across all of our data. With ATLAS.ti, we can keep our analysis process organized and transparent so that it's clear how we analyzed everything, and we can sort of keep this audit trail of our analysis. Now, of course, with ATLAS.ti, we have a lot of other features and possibilities. So we can also work in teams. We can combine qualitative and quantitative analyses. We can use ATLAS.ti to triangulate our research across different methods or types of data. And of course, we can analyze a great variety of kinds of data. So we can analyze textual data, such as transcriptions from interviews or focus groups, and as well academic articles. If we want to conduct a literature review, for example, we can of course use ATLAS.ti. And aside from text, we can also analyze images, audios, videos, geographic data from Google Earth, and we can import data directly from Twitter, Evernote, different reference manager softwares, and Excel. So all of these different kinds of data can be imported into the same project so that you can analyze the overarching trends and patterns. And we offer some different versions of ATLAS.ti. So for all the users out there, no matter what platform you're using, you can count on ATLAS.ti. So today we're taking a look at ATLAS.ti for Windows, but we do also have ATLAS.ti for Mac. And so if you use either version, ATLAS.ti projects are completely transferable between both operating systems. And if you have an Android or iPad tablet and you like to work while you're on the go, you can download our ATLAS.ti app completely for free. And so you can have ATLAS.ti also on your tablet and begin analyzing your data, perhaps while you're in the field or if you're traveling. And then you can always later bring it to the computer and continue your analysis from there. And now I'd just like to comment a little bit on the licenses of ATLAS.ti. So if you do decide to purchase the software, so the number one thing to keep in mind is that all of our licenses always include full functionality. So it's a one-time purchase and you'll have the full software. And we don't have any extra charges or hidden costs that come later down the road. Once you buy ATLAS.ti, also any updates that we release to ATLAS.ti 8 are also included for free. So if you're a student, you can purchase ATLAS.ti at a significantly reduced cost, and you can get this for a period of 6 months or 2 years. For the single users out there, you can get your own perpetual or lifetime license. But we do also offer group licenses if you and your team or department would also like to purchase ATLAS.ti. Now, for any of these kinds of licenses, remember you can count on that 10% discount coupon for any of these licenses. And so just if you do decide to go ahead and purchase ATLAS.ti, send me an email and then I'll send that discount coupon to you. Now, what I'd like to particularly point out in this page is our free trial version. So you can download ATLAS.ti from our website and already have it installed on your computer today. And this trial version has no time limit. So you can use it for as long as you would like. The only limitation is in the size of the project that you can create. But it certainly offers an excellent way to start getting to know ATLAS.ti and trying it out in your own data analysis. And then besides the actual product of ATLAS.ti, you can also find a great variety of learning resources on our website. For example, if you and your group of peers, colleagues, or students would like to learn more about ATLAS.ti, you can request one of our free on-demand group demo webinars. Basically, you just fill out the request on our website and you tell us what are you interested in or what kind of data are you planning on analyzing. And then we will prepare a 1-hour presentation according to your interests, and then we will present that in an online format. So you can always find that request on our website. And then if you'd like to learn ATLAS.ti in even more depth, you can of course always attend one of our premium trainings. We offer these in online and face-to-face formats, and you can see all of our upcoming courses as well on our website. But what I would like to point out here in particular is all the different resources that we offer. So you can find the full manual. We also have a quick tour guide, a research blog with a lot of different best practices articles or real-world case studies using ATLAS.ti. And then, of course, our whole series of video tutorials. We have a video tutorial explaining each feature of the software, so you can always count on those video tutorials to revise anything or to see all the different things that we can do with ATLAS.ti. But of course, if you do ever have any questions or doubts, you can always count on our free perpetual support. Just give us a call or send us an email and we'll be happy to help. And so with that, let's go ahead now and take a look at ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. So here we are on the main welcome screen when we open ATLAS.ti. And so we can create a brand new project from here, import an already existing project that we have, import our mobile project. So if we worked on our tablet, we can import it to the computer here. And we can import a legacy project. So if you've been using an older version of ATLAS.ti, you can rest assured that you'll be able to move all of your data and projects to the newest version as well. And then down below and along the left-hand side, ATLAS.ti gives a list of all of the projects that have been previously opened on this computer. So for the purpose of today, I'm going to use a project that we already have worked on so that we can see how this might look in ATLAS.ti. And in this project, we're investigating children and happiness. Or in other words, we're looking at the effects of having children on parents' happiness and this sort of a polemic discussion around that. And now this is a sample project, and meaning that you can find this project on our website and you can download it. So you also have it on your own computer and open it on ATLAS.ti. And you can use this project if you'd like to follow along with the quick tour or if you just want to have a project that you can practice with as you're learning to use the software. Well, you can find this Children and Happiness project on our website. And okay, so here we are in ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. And what do we see here? Well, along the top, we have the main ribbon panel with all of the main functions. And this is organized in a series of tabs. So under the Home tab, we have sort of all of the main functions related, in general with working with our project. But we can also search for specific features. We can find the different advanced analysis tools, import or export different types of data. And now always with ATLAS.ti, if you ever have any doubts about anything or what a certain button does, if you just hover your mouse over the button, you'll always see more help text appear explaining what exactly that does. So as well, you can rest assured that throughout all of ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows, you'll always have this help text there that can clarify what each of these different functions does. And up here at the very top, we have the Save button, as per usual, and we also have the Undo and Redo buttons. So in ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows, we can undo or redo up to 100 steps of our work. So we can truly just sit back and relax and continue our analysis, and in case we make a mistake or we did something we didn't mean to, well, no need to worry, we can always just undo our steps, and we have that available there. And then down here along the left-hand side, we have the Project Explorer panel. From this panel, we can directly see and access any part of our project. So here we have our list of documents. Now, a document in ATLAS.ti simply refers to any source of information that we're going to be analyzing. So documents can be text documents such as articles or interview transcriptions, participant responses. But documents can also be video files or audio files. Our documents can be images, maps, Twitter data. All of these different types of data would be a document here. And so once we've added our documents to our project, how do we begin analyzing? Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at a document that we have a little bit less analyzed here. So, no, that won't be that one. How about here? We have another article. And so in this case, in this example, I've also been using ATLAS.ti to conduct the literature review. So we have imported some of our articles here. And so now that I've added the article, opened it, we're ready to begin analyzing. And so ATLAS.ti has been created with this kind of working with pen and paper mentality. And so a lot of the work and the workflow in ATLAS.ti is intuitive in this way. And so just as we would when we're reading a piece of paper or in a book, whenever we read an ATLAS.ti and we find something that captures our interest or something that maybe can help us answer our research question, well, we're just going to highlight that segment of the text. And then you can save these segments of text as quotations. And on the right-hand side, in the margin area, ATLAS.ti will show all of the work that's been done on this document. So this blue vertical bar is showing the size and location of a quotation in the document. Now, in addition to just saving these different segments in the text here, we can also already begin analyzing it by associating codes to these quotations. Now, a code is simply a word or a short phrase that we can use as a tag to assign to our different quotations. So we can use codes to describe what we're seeing, or we can use codes to synthesize some analytic point. We can create as many codes as we would like, as many types of codes as we need for our own study. And of course, every different methodologies may suggest different coding strategies or types. And ATLAS.ti is completely open and flexible in this sense. It doesn't prefer one methodology over another. ATLAS.ti can be adapted into any kind of methodology here. And so taking a look at this example, I can see this quotation has to do with partnerships and having children and identical twins. So I'm just writing in the code names, and then we have now these codes associated to this quotation. So remember, you can also think of codes as tags that you're going to attach to all these different quotations or pieces of information. And then later we'll see how we can recuperate all of this information. So then we can tell ATLAS.ti, okay, I want to see everything that I found on identical twins. And then in just a few clicks, ATLAS.ti will put all the information together for you. And so in that way, it's also a great time saver, and it can help us stay organized so that we can explore all the different parts across all of our data in our project. So we can add new code names, but if we also want to do some in vivo coding, so let's imagine that as we're reading here, and then there's a phrase here that, imagine we just love the way that the author expressed it, or perhaps we're analyzing our participant data, and we want to capture our participants' exact words and how they expressed something. We can use in vivo coding. And by coding in vivo, ATLAS.ti will convert this text into a code. And so then now we also have this code available, and we can continue reusing it if we would like. And speaking of reusing codes, so let's take a look at our list of codes here in the project. So every time we create a code, ATLAS.ti saves it, and you can see all of the codes, of course, from the Explorer panel on the left-hand side. And so now as we continue analyzing and highlighting these relevant segments, and so I can see here that once again, this is talking about identical twins. But of course, we already have that code created. I'm not going to make it again. I want to use the code that I already have in the project. You can easily associate any of your codes that you already have here just by dragging and dropping them on top of the quotation. And ATLAS.ti saves the quotation, and there we have the code. So we have these different ways of adding codes to our data in ATLAS.ti. And so that way you can use whatever way you prefer, or if you want to do inductive analyses or deductive analyses, you have those possibilities. And you can add codes just by right-clicking on the quotation or clicking on the buttons above. And so now let's imagine with this text document here, let's imagine we've just added it to the project, and in reality, I haven't even read it yet. And before beginning to read it in depth and analyzing it, I want to kind of get a quick global overview of what this article is talking about. So I'm going to conduct a quick content analysis. In ATLAS.ti, we can do this by creating a word cloud or a word list. And so just by clicking on word cloud up here, ATLAS.ti will generate a word cloud of all of the most frequently occurring words from this article. We can use the different stop lists that ATLAS.ti offers so that we have the most common words in English, for example, so that we don't have those counted. So of, the, and so great. Now we can already see the more relevant words here. We can see how many times each of these words occurs in the article. And then of course we can edit this word cloud a bit if we want to change the layout or the threshold. We can even create our own stop or go word list so we can really focus our content analyses. And then of course we can also save this word cloud as an image file. And this would be a file external to ATLAS.ti, so then we'll have this image saved and then we could include it in our final report or presentation. So taking a look at this word cloud, I can see that the author talks household is mentioned 21 times. And I wonder what is the author saying about the household? And I'm curious to know more about this. So I can see that talking about children and satisfaction, so that's definitely relevant for my study. But I want to find more information on the household. Let's go back to the article here. When we want to search for a specific word or phrase in our body of text, we can take advantage of autocoding. With autocoding, we tell ATLAS.ti what word we wanted to search for, and every time it finds this word, ATLAS.ti will automatically create a quotation and associate a code for you. So you just have to tell ATLAS.ti what code do you want it to associate. I'll go ahead and create a new code for household. Oh no, I see we already have that. Well, we can also select any code from our list. So there we have household. And then we tell ATLAS.ti what size of a quotation we want it to create. Should I just select the word, the full sentence, the paragraph? And I want to manually confirm the matches. And let's see what we get here. So then autocoding begins, and ATLAS.ti highlights each of the finds that it gets. So it's highlighted the full sentence here. We can now take a look at it and decide whether we want to code it or skip it. And so if it's something relevant, yes, I'll go ahead and code it. Maybe this doesn't seem so important, so I'll go ahead and skip it. And so in this way, we can go through the entire body of text and code each time the word household appears here. If we unselect confirm matches and click on code it, ATLAS.ti will go ahead and automatically code all of the times that it finds household in this text. And then later we can go through and revise it, or if we ever need to change the size of any quotation, we can easily do that. We can continue adding more codes. And so that's just some of the ways that we can take advantage of auto-coding to quickly and easily filter through any body of text, no matter how large or small it is, and identify these possibly relevant segments of information. Now that we're pretty familiar with how we can work with text documents, let's take a look at how we can analyze a video. So I'm just going to go ahead and open our video file here where we have a family being interviewed. And so when we add a video or audio to ATLAS.ti, we can of course directly watch and listen to it within the software. And up here at the top, we can change the volume, the playback rate. And so we can make all those adjustments that we may want to when we're watching any kind of video or audio. And so how do we analyze this? Well, just as we did before, we're going to be creating these quotations and associating our codes. So we just have to tell ATLAS.ti what segment of the video do we want it to save as a quotation. And to do that, we just go to the right-hand side where we have our margin area, and we just have to click, drag, and drop to highlight that segment of the video, and ATLAS.ti saves this quotation, so we can see again that blue vertical bar. You can easily revise it by clicking on play. So you can easily revise the exact quotation. If you need to change the size of it, you can also do that. And then from here, we can of course continue to add our codes. So we can add our new code names. And of course, we can use any of the codes that we already have from our list. Now, if you're working with audio files, it's going to be the exact same practice. You just won't have the image here in the center. And for those of you who are planning on analyzing videos, there's also another great feature that you can take advantage of if you would like to analyze also the visual aspects of what's going on in this video. So let's just see, maybe not this scene exactly, but where we have an image of the family here. And I want to analyze how the family is interacting, and so I want to be able to analyze these visual parts here. Well, you can easily create a snapshot. So just by clicking on the button up here, ATLAS.ti will take a snapshot of this video, so essentially a screenshot of what's paused on the video screen. And then going back to our list of documents, we have a new document here. And here we have that image. Oh, it seems I didn't select it correctly, but we can analyze then the mother's expression as she's looking at her children here. And so now we have this image. And how can we analyze this? Well, as you may have guessed, we're just going to create quotations and associate codes. And to do that, you just select the segment of the video of the image that you want to save here, that you want to capture. And so you can go into as much or as little detail as you would like. You can adjust the size as you wish. And then, of course, we can continue to associate any of our codes here, just like we've been doing all along. And now any quotation can be overlapping, and so we can create whatever size of quotations that we would like here in order to analyze our data in as much detail as we need. Now, as we're analyzing all this information, I have a lot of ideas in my head that are kind of just floating around there. And so what this family is saying, it actually reminds me of what we read earlier in the article, and I want to write these notes down somewhere. Whenever you want to write down anything in ATLAS.ti, you can use a memo. A memo is simply a notebook. It's a blank space in which we can write down anything that we would like. We can use memos to describe what we're seeing in the data, or to capture our analyses, to reflect on whatever we're doing. We can keep a diary of all of our progress, or perhaps just a task of our to-dos, so, to plan out all of our work. Any ideas, questions, or doubts that come up to us. I mean, the uses of memos are nearly endless, and many different methodologists or researchers may recommend different kinds of memos. And again, with ATLAS.ti, you can create as many as you would like in whatever way you would like, so you can capture your analysis here. And so now I could write, I find it interesting how the family talks about the household, and so on. And I can then note down all my ideas here, and I have it saved nicely in my memo. But of course, this memo was actually inspired by what the family was saying in this quotation that we created here. And I want to make sure that I remember that this quotation has to do with what I wrote in this memo. Well, just as we do with codes, we can also associate any of our memos to our different quotations. So here we have our full list of memos. And to associate any of these, you just have to click, drag and drop it on top of the quotation, and there we have it. And then from here, we could always directly open the memo and continue writing in it. And so we can also use memos since we can associate memos directly to our quotations, it's a great way to analyze this information in even more depth if we want to describe it or to reflect on why did this capture my attention. We can even create a memo for each of our research questions, and then anytime we find something that helps us answer that research question, well, we associate the memo and we can write in it to already start elaborating what we're going to say in our final paper. And if we use our memos in this consistent and clear way and really note down anything that comes to our mind during our work, well, when it comes to writing up the final paper, the grand majority of the content already comes from the memos. And then we'll just export our memos and the different data attached to it, and we can put together our final article in, well, it's much easier than if we don't do this all throughout. Now, as we're writing in this memo and analyzing this data from the video here, well, I find it a little bit uncomfortable that I have to keep switching between the different tabs here. And in fact, I'd like to be able to see both things at the same time. Well, we can always easily visualize multiple screens in ATLAS.ti, and we can easily change any of the sizes of these windows, or if we want to close one, we can. The interface is very flexible, and so we can adjust it as we prefer. So now I continue watching the video and writing in my memo at the same time. We can also float any of these different windows if you prefer to have it as a separate window. Of course, any of these things we can also have separated, or we can dock it back in the main window. So you can definitely adjust the interface to whatever way that you prefer to work. And so now that we've analyzed our data a little bit, let's take a look at how we can export some of these results. Now, each of these different entities of ATLAS.ti has its own manager, and we can find these under the Home tab. From the managers, we can edit all of these different entities and perhaps provide more information or organize them, and of course export any information as well. So for example, from the Codes Manager, you can see the full list of all of your codes. You can see the groundedness of each code, how many quotations are associated to this code. And you can see the density, how many links this code has with any other code in the project. We can also create groups of codes to organize these. And so we can create as many groups as we would like, and any single code can belong to more than one group. And so we can take advantage of groups to organize our codes, our documents, memos, networks. Any part of our project can be grouped. In addition to this, every single individual entity in ATLAS.ti has its own comment space. And we see that down here. And so when we're working with codes here, we can take advantage of this comment space to provide just some more contextual information on the code. In particular, what we recommend is writing out the operational definition of all of our codes in their comment spaces. And that way, we'll always know exactly what each code refers to. And we can write comments on any of the individual entities in our project. So we can comment on our documents, perhaps to include the full reference or to say where an interview was conducted. We can comment on our codes to define them. We can describe our memos. So any of these different things we can write comments on, even our individual quotations if we would like. So ATLAS.ti really offers a lot of opportunities for us to document our analysis and to note everything down. Now, as well as you may have noticed when it comes to working with codes, we can also add any colors here that we would like to organize it a little bit more. And we can change any of the names of our codes if we would like to, for example, add any prefixes here. And so here we've organized our code list by these different prefixes to know which codes are belonging in the same group. So we have different types of definitions of happiness here. So these are sort of subcodes, and we show that here. And now let's imagine, as I said, what I wanted to do now was export some of the information that we've analyzed here. And so if I want to see everything that we found on definitions of happiness, we can always easily export reports here. We can send the information to Excel and have it, in a table format. We can export any of this information, or we can export it as a report, so as a text document. And we just tell ATLAS.ti what information we want to include in this report. And then in just a few moments, ATLAS.ti puts all the information together for us. And we can see the title of the project, what kind of report it is. And then here we have our first code, the comment of this code, so the definition of the code. And we can see the 21 quotations that have been associated here. Now we can read each of these quotations and we have them available. And then as we continue scrolling down, we see our second code in our report, its definition and its quotations. And now we can save this report as a Word or PDF file. And then of course, this will be a file that's saved externally to ATLAS.ti. So later then, when I'm writing up about the different definitions of happiness or how do parents talk about happiness, I don't even have to go back into ATLAS.ti and open up all the data again. We can just refer to the report that we exported here. So exporting these kinds of reports is a really great way to recuperate this information. We can also export our code book directly right here if we just want to see the definitions of all of our codes, if we need to include this perhaps as an appendix in our final thesis. Well, just by clicking on Excel, ATLAS.ti will export each of these codes, their definitions, what groups they belong to, how many quotations they have, how many links with other codes, and we have all that put together for us in Excel. And so now that we know a little bit how to work with the code manager, I have good news for everyone, because if you know how to use one of the managers, you'll know how to use all of them. because they all have the exact same interface in practice. And so that's a little bit of how we can organize our information to create groups, write their comments, and export some of our results. Now let's take a look at how can we visualize the different parts of our project. I want to create a network. So we have some networks here, but let's go ahead and create a brand new one. And let's look at those definitions of happiness. So ATLAS.ti opens up our network space, and it's a blank space for now because we've just created a brand new one. And now we can add any part of our project to this network. And to add your documents or codes, memos, anything you want, you just have to select them and drag and drop them from the left-hand side. And so now we have our different codes here about different ways happiness was defined. And from here, we can link the different codes. We can name these relations to describe how the codes are related to each other. So we're creating semantic relations in this case. ATLAS.ti offers some relation names by default, but we can of course create any relation name we would like. And we can edit these relations if we want to have bold lines or colored lines or anything that we want. We can edit any of those easily. And so now we have created a relatively straightforward code hierarchy here. So showing about the different definitions of happiness and so how what we found from our analysis. And we can also visualize even more information in our networks. So we can see those frequencies, the groundedness, how many quotations, and the density, how many links this code has with other codes in the project. We can visualize the comments, so we can directly see the definitions of these codes within our networks. And then we can even continue to add more objects here. So we see here that we have 8 quotations about happiness being subjective. And I'd like to refresh what did we find about happiness being subjective? I can't quite remember. I want to see those quotations again. Well, we can easily import any of the associated objects. And so here we have all our different quotations. ATLAS.ti shows what other codes have been linked to this quotation. And we can preview these quotations, so we can see the full quotation directly in our network. And then, of course, with ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows, we can take advantage of the different automatic layout options that it offers for us so that we can find the best way to represent this information here. And then, of course, we can continue to link the different objects in our network. We can link quotations with quotations. If we also want to analyze how the different authors or participants, how they compare or contrast, we can, of course, draw out these relations as well. And remember, we can view any part of our project in a network. So I also want to show that memo that we wrote about the family here. So I'm going to add it. And so we can even see a preview of the memo. And we can continue to link this memo to different parts of the network. We can easily export our networks in image files. So you can export it as a PNG, JPEG, GIF, TIFF, BMP. We can also directly print the network or save it as a PDF or export it to XPS. So we have a lot of different formats available. And so whatever you need, perhaps for your particular thesis or for a specific journal, sometimes they ask for specific formats. Well, you have all those possibilities available there. And then ATLAS.ti will save this network as an external image file. So once again, we'll have an image out of ATLAS.ti that we can use to include in our final report or presentation. And that's a little bit about how we can work with networks. Now finally, let's take a look at some of the different ways that we can analyze our data. So we've seen how we can code all of our data, sort of manual coding, where we read through and create our quotations, associate our codes, and write in our memos. Now, once we have all that coding done, we can also begin to interrogate the data, and let's see what's going on with all these codes. Under the Analyze tab, we find these different tools. So let's take a look at the code document table. From this table, we can see how many times the different codes are occurring across our documents. So we can select either individual codes here, or we can work directly with our groups of codes. And the same goes for our documents. So with this tool, we can see, for example, one of the ways we can take advantages of our groups to compare and contrast between these different, well, the different variables or factors of our interest. So let's take a look with an example here. So I want to see what the different participants in this study said about the different reasons for having children. So I'm going to select all the codes that we have on reasons for having children. Now, so we could have selected the group here, but then that would show everything sort of just aggregated, as one number. But if we want to see the frequency of each individual code, well, then I'm going to select the individual codes here. And now, on the one hand, we could select all of our participant data to see how many times these codes were used across the participants. But to be honest, I don't want to just see what every single participant said. I want to actually compare what the males and the females said. So when we imported our data here, we used ATLAS.ti to automatically group our participants according to their gender. And so now I'm just going to directly select the document group. Let's go ahead and flip the order of the table so we can see it a bit more clearly. And so now ATLAS.ti is showing us how many times this code was used in the data from the female participants and how many times this code was used in the data from the male participants. We can also see the totals. And if we click on any of these individual cells, down below ATLAS.ti will show these quotations. So we can see a preview here. And if we double click, ATLAS.ti will open up that quotation back in its full context. So we always stay close to the data in ATLAS.ti, and we can always easily revisit any of our quotations back in their full context. And so now we have this nice kind of global overview where we can easily compare between the female and male participants and what do they say about the different reasons for having children. So interestingly enough, it seems that males mentioned more this idea of altruism for having children, while for females, we can see that they talked more about biology here, or perhaps about the different culturally embedded beliefs. And so now basically we can compare and contrast, we can explore down below what exactly that they said. And then if we want to save this table, we can export it, and we have some different options here. If we want to export it as a simple text file or graphic file, or of course to send it straight to Excel, and then ATLAS.ti will open up this table for us in Excel. And from here, we could even create a graphic if we wanted to visualize this information. And now I could include this in my final report or presentation. So that's the code document table, seeing how many times our codes were used across our project. Now let's take a look at the code co-occurrence table. So with this tool, we're once again creating a table, but this time we're examining the co-occurrence of our codes. Co-occurrence simply refers to the coexistence of any two codes in the project. So if two codes have been used on the same quotation, or if they're in overlapping quotations, we can examine how many times they're coexisting in this way, and this can help us identify any possibly emerging relations across our concepts here, across all of our codes. So for example, throughout our study, we identified a lot of different positive and negative effects of parenting that came up. And so we coded each of these positive and negative effects. And now I want to analyze these different positive and negative effects that we found and kind of see what's going on here. So now we have our table created here, and we can easily adjust it as need be. And so what is this showing us? Well, this table is telling us that this code co-occurs 4 times with this code. Once again, if we click on the cell down below, we can see these exact quotations where these two codes are co-occurring. So we can explore our co-occurrences in this way. And now, how can we maybe interpret this result? Well, taking a look at where we have a relatively high co-occurrence here, so there's this co-occurrence between the negative effect of more worries, stress, and responsibilities, and the positive effect of personal growth. So it seems that when parents were talking about this negative effect of, oh, it's so much more stress and responsibility, at the same time, they mentioned this positive effect of personal growth. Now I wonder why this is. This isn't something we expected when we began the investigation. But it does seem that whenever parents mention this, they also often mention that. Now I wonder why this is. Could it be that in order to experience personal growth, one has to undergo more worries and stress? And after having children, parents come to appreciate this, maybe. Well, this is one possible interpretation that I would now actually open up a memo and write out in it. So, what I think from the co occurrence table, and then continue to explore the quotations here to see if this interpretation makes sense or not. And well, that's just one way that we could use the co occurrence table to analyze our data. But as we like to say, this table offers a space for serendipity. There's something unexpected to come up because it can help draw to our attention where there might be some possibly emergent relation or underlying explanation between two concepts of our research. And just as we did with the table before, we can also export this table as a text file or Excel, and then again create that graphic. We want to visualize this result, or if we want to just save the table, and then include it in our final presentation or report. And finally, let's take a look at the query tool. With the query tool, we can recuperate any of the quotations across our project based on whatever information we want to see, based on whatever questions we ask or whatever queries we give to ATLAS.ti. So we can work with our individual codes here or directly with our groups of codes. So for example, we have a group of codes here about the different relation between happiness and children. Do children increase, decrease, don't affect happiness? So we have all those codes put together in this group here. And that is one of our main research questions, is how do children affect happiness? And so if I want to see all the quotations from all of these codes, I can just directly load the code group into the query space. And down below, ATLAS.ti shows all the quotations from any of the codes in this group. And so this is a relatively straightforward query. We just told ATLAS.ti, show me the quotations from this code group. And if we wanted to, we could directly save this in a report, and then we have our result ready there. But I'm not just interested in this relation between happiness and children. I want to see exactly what did families that have children say about this. So maybe here we also have some quotations from our literature review or from other participants, and I want to focus specifically on families with children. So we're going to add another code to this query. And so I'm going to tell ATLAS.ti, I want to see these quotations and those quotations that have been coded with our code of families with children. And when we click here, we see fewer quotations, but these are much more meaningful quotations because here I can already find the answers to my research question. What do families with children say about the relation between happiness and children? So we can use all these different operators up here to create our queries in ATLAS.ti. So we have set operators, semantic operators if we want to work based from our network and the relations that we created in our different hierarchies and so on. And we can also use proximity operators. So once again, this idea of co-occurring codes. So we can also analyze in even more detail the different possible co-occurring codes across our project. And of course, you do not need to memorize what each of these functions does, because just by hovering your mouse over each one, ATLAS.ti will say exactly what this operator does. In addition to this, we can even edit the scope of the query if we just want to focus on a specific subset of our data. And so then we can either focus on a specific group of documents or a single document if we just want to see the quotations from there. So if I just want to see what the different readers said about this, so I can select the group here that we have, and then ATLAS.ti will adjust the query within this scope that we indicated. And so now from here, we could either create a report where we select the information we want to see, or we can take advantage of the automatic report options that ATLAS.ti includes here. So we just click, and then it'll put together all of the information for us. It shows us what query we made here, and then the quotations. And so now we can see each of the quotations. We can see what other codes were associated to this quotation. And if we have any memos or hyperlinks, a hyperlink is just a link to another quotation, a quotation link. And we can see all that here. And then of course we can save the support and we have the results of our query saved. And so that's how we can use the query tool in ATLAS.ti. And so finally, I would just like to point out some other features with ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. In case you're interested and you can explore in more detail. So as we also see here, ATLAS.ti also offers an integrated intercoder agreement tool. If you're working in teams, you can have multiple people working on the same project, and then when everyone has conducted their part of the analysis, you can merge together all of these projects into one single project. ATLAS.ti keeps track of everyone's username, so you'll be able to see exactly who did what and when. And then when you merge together all the different projects, you can calculate the intercoder agreement. You can see what each person coded, and then you can see to what extent are they in agreement. Did you make the same quotations or in the same location or size? To what degree are they similar? And what codes were added? You can examine each of these different, all the different parts of the work of your teammates. You can comment on it and, continue going in more depth or exploring, discussing why something was done or into that's one of the ways that you can conduct teamwork here. And then, of course, you can also calculate the Holstein index or Krippendorf alpha, and of course, just simple percentage agreements. You have all that available here. Under the Import and Export tab, you'll see how you can import different types of data. So we saw how we can just add documents, normal text documents or images. But if you want to analyze Twitter data, you can directly import tweets based on whatever hashtag you're interested in, just by clicking here. And ATLAS.ti will add all of those tweets, and it'll automatically code those tweets for you. If you work with Evernote, you can import all your Evernote data into ATLAS.ti and have it automatically organized for you, so you can continue then analyzing and coding it in more depth. And the same with if you work with any bibliographic reference manager. So if you use EndNote, Mendeley, or Zotero, you can import all of your articles from there directly into ATLAS.ti. You can have it automatically grouped for you, and then you can continue to conduct your literature review and read these articles in more depth. If you're working with open-ended surveys, you can also import all of your responses, whether you have 3 or 300 participant responses, and ATLAS.ti will also automatically organize it for you, and it can pre-code the responses. And if you and your team have already developed a code book that you're all going to be using, so let's imagine you already have a list of 100 codes and all their definitions, well, you can go ahead and automatically import that into ATLAS.ti, and it'll already put all those codes there for you. And you can likewise export your code book. So if I want to export all the codes here, I can also just click on the button and then ATLAS.ti will export it. And we have the XLSX format and the Universal QDC format. This is a new format that's a universal across qualitative data analysis software. And so ATLAS.ti really does value being able to share our work. ATLAS.ti is not an island, and we want to make it possible for you to move your project to wherever you need. And along these lines, if you're conducting mixed methods research, you can export the entire ATLAS.ti project to SPSS, and then continue conducting quantitative analyses from there. So that's just a little bit on some of the other things that you have available in ATLAS.ti, but that we don't have time to cover in our webinar today. But I encourage all of you to explore and to see these different functions and how they work or how they suit your needs. And then if you ever have any questions, you can, of course, always send us an email or give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to help.